Hello everyone, this is LeetCode 383, ransom note, given two strings, ransom note and magazine. Return true if ransom note can be constructed by using the letters from magazine, and false otherwise. Each letter in magazine can only be used once in ransom note. So for example, let's say magazine wasn't AAB, but just AB. We can't use, like, if we only had one A in magazine, right? We couldn't use that one A to spell out this string in ransom note, right? Now, in this particular example, you can because there's two A's, right? AAB. Okay, you can form those two A's using these two A's here. But really, this part here is just telling you can only use you can only use the occurrence of a particular letter once, right? If A shows up once here, you can use it once here. If A shows up twice here, you can use it to form two A's here, right? So the frequency of a particular letter does matter. That's all this is telling you here. So yeah. Um sorry about going into detail, but in case you were kind of lost on what they meant by that, I just kind of wanted to explain. So we have to form ransom note from magazine. So how can we approach this? Well, why don't we start by basically counting the frequencies of all the letters in magazine, right? And then let's iterate through the string ransom note and see if the occurrences in ransom note appear in magazine. How do we do that? Well, let's start out by counting out the occurrences in magazine. Okay, we're just gonna use a hash map for that. We're gonna call it hash map mag, and we're gonna create that, right? Our hash map for our magazine string. We're gonna say for the character in magazine, if the character is already a key in the hash map, okay, we're just going to increase the counter by 1. Otherwise, if the character is not a key in our hash map for magazine, we're gonna set the counter equal to 1. Okay. Now, let's iterate through ransom note. Okay. So for char and ransom note, okay, if this char is not in the hash map of mag, then that means we have a letter in ransom note that doesn't happen or doesn't occur in magazine, right? If we have a character in ransom note that doesn't appear in magazine, we cannot form ransom note from magazine. So we would return false, right? But there is also another edge case we need to handle, which would be cases where we might have, let's say, 2 A's in ransom note, but 1 A in magazine, like in example 2, right? In this case, the frequency of A in magazine is less than the frequency in ransom note. The frequency of A in ransom note, right? So that would be problematic. So let's just also say, or if hash map mag of the character is equal to 0, right? You know, when I initially did this problem, I had it as less than 1, which is the same thing, but it's a little bit more confusing. Um, at least maybe to some people who are kind of new to like easier problems, to just make it as simple as possible. So we're just gonna say hash map mag character is equal to 0. Now here is where we're going to, well, if we enter this else statement, it means that the character on ransom note does occur in the hash map of mag, and the occurrence is greater than 0. Okay, so in that case, the character occurs in ransom note also is existent in the hash map mag, right? So we would have to do decrement the counter, right? So for example, let's just do this example, right? So there's 1A, right? The hash map right now, we're starting on iterating through ransom note. Before we do anything, the hash map count for A in magazine is 1, okay? Because there's 1A, right? There's 1A, right? So when we hit this first A, we decrement the counter. So now the counter of A in magazine is 0, right? Because we already used up 1A. So when we go to the second A, the A does exist in the hash map mag, but the counter is 0, right? So we actually return false because we can't create ransom note from magazine for this particular example, right? And so that's why this part here is just as important as checking if it even exists, if a character even exists in the hash map mag. Now, right, in case you're lost what this part is for, right, of course it would be cases like this where we create the hash map first, right, for magazine, which would just be B is equal to 1. A is not even a key in the hash map because we don't ever come across an A in magazine. So when we iterate through the string here of ransom note, char is not a key. The char here would be A. This character A is not a key in the hash map for this, right? Because we never came across an A. So in that case, we return false. Okay? So yeah, this else statement is basically where the count's greater than 0 and it exists in the hash map for the magazine string. Okay? Now, if we exit this for loop, we can just return true because that means that we can create ransom note from magazine without any problems, right? Because we never returned false. So we just return true, and that would mean that we can create ransom note from magazine. Okay. And as you can see, we don't have any problems. Yeah. And here, ransom note magazine consists of lowercase English letters. I mean, technically, I don't think it matters, at least with the approach we use, because that would be reflected in a hash map whether a character is lowercase or uppercase, right? So, I mean, they're all lowercase English letters, but for this approach, it doesn't really matter. It would work either way, but not too many edge cases in this problem. Really, I don't think this problem is too difficult. If you found it difficult, you probably just don't. I mean, maybe you just didn't think of the solution, but if you don't understand this problem, you probably just have a not so good understanding of hash maps, in which case you should review that, and I think it'll make sense because this solution isn't too difficult or complicated, right? It's just a basic hash map problem. Maybe the difficult part, if you're seeing this problem for the first time, the most difficult part might just be understanding what the problem statement is even asking. But once you understand what it's asking, and then the approach should be pretty obvious. So yeah, I hope this helped, and I'll see you in the next one.